So my friends, are you ready to climb the mountains with me? Or the mountain, I should say. Or maybe I should emphasize the mountain. Now what am I talking about? I'll tell you in a moment. But first, join me in reciting a chapter of Tehillim. Mizmor Lesoida, Oriol Adonai Kol Haaretz. Ivdu es Adonai b'simcha b'elefon u'b'nano d'u ki Adonai hu Elohim. Hu asanu v'lo anachnu ame v'tzoyin marisa v'bo yishor v'soidach chatzeroisa b'sila hoido lebachu shemoy ki toiv Adonai le'olam chazdoi v'yad dor v'dor emunasoi. This is by way of thanking Hashem for all the miracles that He did and that He will do, and obviously including the main miracle, the miracle of Mashiach. So let us all give tzedakah together. And so what mountain am I talking about? Torah portion this week is called Bahar. In fact, we have two portions, Bahar and Bechor Koisai. We're going to be concluding the third book of Vayikra this Shabbos. But first, let's talk about Bahar. Bahar would mean the mountain. What's the story? Torah says, Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe, God spoke to Moshe Rabbeinu, Bahar Sinai, on Mount Sinai, Lemoyer, to share the following. What? And then he goes on to tell him the laws of the sabbatical year, the laws of Shemitah. Classic question, Ma ini Shemitah etzel Har Sinai? What's the connection between the laws of Shemitah, the laws of the sabbatical year, with the fact that it was given on Mount Sinai? Everything was given on Mount Sinai. The whole Torah was given on Mount Sinai. Why this specifically emphasizing that the mitzvah of Shemitah was given on Mount Sinai? Many explanations to that. I want to share with you one, I think, fundamental concept. Let's analyze a little bit the mitzvah of Shemitah. Torah says the following. For 6 years you should cultivate the land. On the 7th, you should let it rest. What means let it rest? A free-for-all, open house policy. Anybody can come onto the field, whatever will be growing that particular year. Anybody can come and serve themselves, not to do business with it, but to serve themselves for their own personal use. Says the Torah. If you're going to say, what are we going to eat? If a whole year we're going to be unemployed, a whole year we'll not be able to going to be benefiting from our produce, how we're going to make a living, how we're going to sustain. Says God, I promise you that the 6th year will give you double food. If you make a commitment that you will be observing the laws of Shemitah, says God, the year prior to Shemitah, I will give you double salary. I will give you double produce. This way you'll have what to eat on the 6th, you'll have what to eat on the 7th year, and as well as within the 8th year till you start producing fresh produce and then put it on the market. Now here's an interesting thing. One would think that the reason why we should give a sabbatical year for the earth is so to give it a rest, and it's called Shabbos, a day of rest. Why? Because I don't have a green thumb, but for what we all understand is that, the earth also needs a year of rest. So if that's the case, one would presume the first year should give the most produce, the second year again, but then in the waning years, the 5th and the 6th, there should be less produce growing because the earth is getting quote-unquote tired. If the 7th is the day of rest, then Thursday, Friday, the end of the week, we're usually tired. So the earth also on the 5th and the 6th of the year should be also already tired and give less produce. Nevertheless, says the Torah, no. God says, I promise you, if you make a commitment beforehand that you will keep the laws of Shemitah, the laws of the sabbatical year, you will see the 6th will give you double produce. That's miraculous. That's an obvious indication that our livelihood is depending on God's blessing. That our livelihood is not the result of our toil. The livelihood is not the result of our effort. We have to do the effort. No question about it. That's the way God created the world. That we have to do things natural way. But we always have to remember that the success of it, the result of it, is depending on Hashem. That's the concept, Bahar Sinai. Always remember that everything that happens down here on this physical earth all comes from Mount Sinai. What did we have at Mount Sinai? We know, the revelation of godliness. So this is a basic concept that we should know. That we need the blessing of God in everything that we do. When we live this way, guaranteed success. So please God, we also ask you, bring us back to Mount Sinai. But not just Mount Sinai, Mount Moriah, the mountain of the Beis Hamikdash, where we will celebrate with Mashiach now.